associations. There's going to be a pilot program starting so that people who are blind or visually impaired will have another method of recording and verifying their hours through a phone system. There's information on DREDF's website and our website, and we're actually looking for people in certain counties. I can't remember which ones they are, the pilot ones. So, you know, the state's going to try this out, and it took a good long time to move them to where they are now, and I do want to give Department of Social Services credit for having recognized that this is an issue and being willing to try something to fix it. So that's, I think, what the gentleman in the back was referring to. I noticed there's nothing about managed care on the program. Is that true? Well, now there is. So there's this thing called the Coordinated Care Initiative in a lot of the counties around the state. And one of the main pieces of it is moving long-term services and supports into managed care. That means IHSS. And if that gives you a little knot in your stomach, it should. I personally think it's a huge threat to IHSS as we know and love it, and an issue that you all need to be involved with, especially if you're in one of the counties, as you are, that is part of the Coordinated Care Initiative. Right now, because of the great work of some legislative staff members, IHSS is protected until the end of the 3-year CCI demonstration, meaning that the counties are still doing the assessments and doing the paperwork and in charge basically of running the program. That is not necessarily what's going to happen in the future, and there is at least one executive director of the managed care plan who told me for the first time 2 years ago and then 2 months ago that basically they can't wait to get their hands on IHSS. Now, there may be some of you who think that would be a good thing, that somebody else's hands on IHSS would be better than your county's hands. I don't necessarily, no, I don't share that view. And depending on the financial incentives, like where the money is, I think it's a concern. These are plans who, with the exception of sole exception of San Mateo, where IHSS really is part of the health system, the county system, these are not plans who knew anything about IHSS until recently. Many of them probably don't know what a public authority is. They may. I know the plans in San Diego County know what a public authority is because Bud's been talking to them and getting to know them for 10 years at least or more. I really encourage you, beseech you to think about what this means and not see it solely as a threat. I feel like it gives us an opportunity, it maybe forces us into an opportunity to think about how the public authorities, the advisory committee, and IHSS can be more valuable than they are now. And I know we all say, as do I, like every day, the average cost of IHSS is 1/5 the average cost of a nursing home. But if we're honest with ourselves, we also, I think, should be able to say IHSS doesn't work for everybody. I mean, my mother's 98 years old, and if she had to hire and fire and train a worker, it would not be happening. Luckily, my sister lives with her and keeps her alive. She would have a different expectation. And it shouldn't be, to me, this is my personal opinion, a matter of shame for somebody at any age to be able to say, I need a little more help with this program, making this program work. Maybe this month for the next 3 months, I need help interviewing workers, or I need help supervising them. I don't think that means you're giving up your independence or giving up anything. But I have felt for a long time there needs to be a range of possibilities in IHSS so that the only two alternatives aren't you do it all yourself, or you have an agency mode, which is left in only a few counties, or you end up in a nursing home. I really do, I encourage you to think about ways that would do a couple of things. They would be actually good for people who have trouble or maybe are at risk because they can't do all these functions themselves. And it would also, to me, go towards insulating the program against the continual accusations of fraud and abuse, and a presentation that a managed care plan would be able to make, saying, we'll help you with all of that. We'll be happy to arrange your care or find your caregiver. Might be in like too subtle or not subtle or not fair. You get what I'm saying, Ellen?
I want to add some detail to that. Right now, my daughter's position is at the county.
Can she use the microphone, please?
Yeah, I will run the microphone.
Thank you, 'cause we can't hear the back.
Yeah, and it's more accessible to do it.
Can she wait for the microphone, please?
Yep, she is.
Thank you.
I would disobey Michelle for the
Sorry.
Thank you. My daughter's situation is at the county.
Speak into it.
At the county level. And I'm trying to figure out how to say it. Nurse Susan Arian shows up. Well, she first calls and arranges for what I thought was going to be a phone call visit for my daughter and I around a vendor situation. Turned out to be a home visit. And business card, Susan RN, no other name, central number, and the operator says, well, Susan who? So we can't find her. But in the meantime, my daughter's situation is already at the county level. And so I called and say, since when does the hospital do home visits? We don't do home visits. Well, you have someone coming doing a home visit, and we can't reach her to find out why when a phone conversation is correct. Nurse Susan shows up, gives me the business card, Susan RN. I don't let her in. Like, excuse me, one, I've already been told this agency doesn't do home visits. What kind of business card only has your first name? And the phone number is the phone number you gave my daughter, but it's to a central line who asked Susan who. So, long story short, Nurse Susan was coming in to sign my daughter up for her care program. Yeah, sounds wrong.
I want to say that managed care, as far as medical care, may be a great boon for some people. I mean, there are some people who have struggled to get medical care on their own. But if we're united in wanting to preserve the good things about IHSS and improve it, I mean, bring ourselves to the point where we could say it could be even better. It could be better, and we could accomplish preserving it and making it better if we are willing to think along those lines, so we don't have managed care or somebody else saying, well, see, IHSS, they won't help somebody in this way at all to hire somebody, so it looks a lot better to us to have a big company involved. And I will tell you that if we were trying to create IHSS today in the legislature, And one of you got up and said, what I want is a program where 450,000 people get to hire whoever they want with no supervision, and you all are gonna pay for it. There's no way that would happen. If this hadn't started 42 years ago, it would not be alive today. It's something precious, but I think, and we're so used to trying to protect what we have, but I'm urging you to go beyond that and think how it could be better, to preserve what's good about it, make it better, and preserve the program. And I think that there's a role for public authority and the advisory boards to do that, and you're the natural people to make any kinds of improvements. Now, I know some of the public authorities vary greatly in their ability to do any kind of extra duties. And I want to recognize those of you who do already enhance the program, and just challenge you to see if you can think about ways that would preserve it and improve it even more. When the public authorities started, one of the tasks was to improve IHSS. And my tenure at Alameda County, let's just say, I don't feel like I accomplished that. Now, Charles succeeded me, and he's been there an amazingly long time, and Donna was in San Francisco a long time, and there may be, and of course Eldon, or I don't want to say the father of the public, well, anyway. But I wonder whether that's something that has worked out. I mean, whether you feel like you've got the kind of relationship with the counties where you are able to intercede on improving the way consumers are treated, the way caseloads are managed, the way payroll problems are resolved, any of those things. So I'm just interested in that because I know that that was a challenge. The advisory boards were supposed to be kind of separate from the county and representing the interests of the consumers in particular who are not represented by unions. And so I'm wondering whether that has happened. We hear a lot about various IHSS problems in various counties, and I urge you, if you have consumers, we represent people with disabilities, we don't represent workers, but we will help like providers, parent providers of minor children, or providers of adults with disabilities. And I urge you, if you have difficulties, folks are having those difficulties, to call Disability Rights California, and you have the pamphlet there. And there's two reasons. One is that they can get individualized help from somebody who isn't me, from somebody who's an attorney or an advocate who knows the IHSS rules inside and out. And also, they are entered into our data system, which enables us to track whether there's a trend, and whether we're seeing a lot of problems with a particular issue or a particular county. So I really call on you, we depend on you to help bring us business, and it's easy for me to say that because the calls aren't going to go to me. The gentleman in the back has a question.
So, in my particular case, public authorities fail, being a consumer. If you go down to the state, any state appeals board, I think you'll see that my view is supported, because there is a line of social workers and a line of hearings going on every day, 5 days a week. And those are from consumers that are not happy. So I think there's a problem. There's a big problem.
Well,
in my particular case, I work directly with the manager of the public authority in Chula Vista, Thomas Johnson. When I was an ambassador for the Braille Institute, I proposed something, and he said, well, hey, coincidentally, I'm working on something like this, that I want to create a 4-tier program for providers. I believe it was bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. meaning each provider, if they take it upon themselves to do a little bit more, like maybe take another first aid class or take a blind 101 etiquette class, just to put another feather in their cap, that would put them in a different genre of when a client such as myself gets a provider list, they're going to say, oh look, Jane Doe has got these acclimates and this and this and this. Great, I think I'll pick her or him. That's fine. But as that goes, I've tried to contact some of the people and they have 3, 4 clients, so they're not available. So then you gotta go down the list a little bit. Okay, so you go to the next person, to where you finally get to the person that says, all they did was their basic, whatever orientation that they have to take, and then that's that. Well, the providers, in my case, in my experience, they're just, yeah, sure, the initial visit, the initial interview that you conduct with them, oh yeah, I can do this, I'm flexible, and they're provided. If you choose not to choose that person, they get offended. Or, well, why don't you want to hire me? Or, well, because I don't think it's going to work out. Then, all they have to do is say one thing to whoever addresses them at public authority, and then public authority is on you. It's like, well, what's the problem that you're not doing this, or what's the problem? Or if you hire someone for a day and you see that it's not going to work, which has happened in my case, I'll be honest with you, I have a lot of turnover in my particular case as a consumer, because I had one girl, a provider, just my personal experience, who was hypoglycemic, which people who don't know that, she had really low blood sugar. And she needed a provider herself. We were at the grocery store, and I'm telling her what I need, and she goes almost into a diabetic coma. She says, I have, food, and I know you can't ask them if
Excuse me, can I try to respond a little bit to you? Please? I think what you're describing is an issue that has been around since the beginning of IHSS, which is the difficulty in recruiting and keeping capable people at the wage rates that's offered. I mean, I think that that's a huge factor. I understand, I don't know what the public authorities are able to do to recruit and retain people. I do think that there's data showing that the turnover has decreased since the wages in many counties have gone up a lot, but not in every county. You still have counties paying minimum wage. The issue of, however people are matched, let me back up. I mean, the public authorities, and I know I'm being a little defensive here out of friendship and memory, I mean, they can't force people to be on the registry. They can't force people to work. So the question I guess I would pose to you and everybody, I mean, what are you doing to help recruit good providers for IHSS and for the registry? And if you're part of your public authority, what are you able to do? Of course, you can hire anybody you want. There is no requirement that you have to go through the registry at all. And I hear lots of complaints from people about the registries. Some of the people who are complaining are people who are on the public authority boards, which I don't know exactly what to think about that.
Well, my concern is not so much the provider, that's on them. Okay, my concern as a consumer, as a client, is I want protection, because all the provider has to do is go to their, back to the public authority and say, hey, this client is this, and this client is that. Then they come down on me and implement mandates or probational periods or this, that, and the other. Well, me as a client, I should have some protection as well.
Then I would encourage you to get involved with your local public authority advisory board if you're not, because as far as I know, each public authority makes its own rules about who is allowed to use the public authority. So, I mean, the registry, both on the consumer side and on the worker side.
Thank you.
Am I speaking loud enough so the rest can hear me?
Yeah, with the microphone.
To make it more accessible.
Hi, my name is Rose and I work in Alameda County as a program manager. My main function is to run the home care registry. And at a state level, all public authorities are actively always recruiting home care workers. It is a very difficult job for the wage. In fact, I do a lot of community partnerships in Alameda County, and one of the agencies that I do partnership with to try to find caregivers is an agency that works with mostly with minorities of sorts. And I was seeking non-English speaking providers, so I went through one of these community agencies, and I was actually told that workers won't sign up for the in-home support services registry because of the wage. Even with the benefit, the $12.50 an hour in Alameda County is the highest paying county in the state. The $12.50 an hour, it's not enough. And we're constantly recruiting caregivers, and we're constantly, losing them to higher paying private pay jobs.
We have another question back here.
Another question?
Yeah, I don't know what's happening with this.
No, we have till 12.
There's Charles.
I'm already going to be speaking too much already today.
Impossible.
Hopefully my voice carries sufficiently. So, but as Fran Smith, the Public Authority Director from YOLO left, she whispered in my ear that since this topic was those collaborations with CICA, she suggested that there at least be some mention of CAPA in its collaboration with CICA, which Eldon referred to earlier, since, as he said, they're intertwined or intermingled or incestuous sometimes. But it should be mentioned that CICA has worked closely with CAPA. CAPA has supported CICA. CICA has supported CAPA. It's a mutually beneficial arrangement. And for example, sometimes CICA can do things in the community and through the advisory board membership that wouldn't look quite the same coming through CAPA and the public authority directors. But public authority directors have CAPA, which has Karen Kiesler, who I know also sort of advises to CICA. But public authority directors can, through CAPA, get Karen to try to sponsor legislation or work with other organizations like Disability Rights. And so I just think it should be mentioned that CAPA is an important partner for CICA. I'd also be interested in hearing something a little bit about CFILC and its relationship to CICA.
Yeah, we were going to go there, Joe. We could still have some moment. I just wanted to say absolutely. I'm very sorry Karen's not here. He's the person with Karen was so badly for her. But Karen has been a huge part of CICA as we move forward. She's been incredibly supportive. Those of you who know, I really wanted her here so you could put a face to her voice, because she's on our calls every single month. And if she's not, just because it's a very specific, she really has a good reason. She just doesn't blow us off. She's absolutely fabulous. And if there's anything that we need, she's always there for us to give us the support and the information that we do need. And this has been going on with CAPA from the very beginning when we first started. And they were the ones that really got us off the ground. So, you know, we cannot say enough for CAPA and how supportive they have been and how we've worked with them and will continue to work with them into the future. But do you want to say anything? Put me on the spot here, sorry.
No, sure, I'm happy to.
Bud Sales is the Executive Director of the Public Authority in San Diego County.
He's one of the new ones. How long has it been?
Only 13 years.
Only 13 years, yeah.
Hi folks, good morning.
Good morning.
Bud Sales, again, Executive Director of the San Diego Public Authority. And as Robert pointed out, we're not perfect. Registries, to be honest with you, are a pain in the butt to operate. But we have to do it, and for many people it's a blessing, for some people it's a curse. Our staff often complain about consumers and providers saying this concept of he said, she said. So all day long, you know, they're working with providers that are upset with their consumers, and consumers that are upset with their providers. And it's like any relationship, you know, people have to work things out, whether you're married, or you have roommates, or, you know, siblings, or whatever, and it's difficult. And I think that the concept of finances comes in, you know, in San Diego, the wage is $9.85 an hour, and a lot of people are, you know, paying their union dues and other things on that. So it's not a lot of money in San Diego to live on. Rose days, you know, $12.50, and you know, our folks would be absolutely thrilled to have a wage like that. So I think, you know, things are all relative, and I know a number of small counties that are talking about it. But as far as, you know, talking about CAPA, and it's a shame that Karen's not here because she's so eloquent in talking about our organization. CAPA has been around, well, as I said, I've been around for 13 years, and I came in relatively soon after AB 1682 passed, but as Eldon Luce mentioned earlier, the public authorities really started shortly after 1992 when a law passed allowing for public authorities to be in place. And CAPA didn't immediately occur, but folks realized that they needed to get together to talk, to share, to understand. And so my first meeting was actually with mostly people that were operating registries that were trying to figure out how we could work together, how we could communicate our value. I know we spent forever trying to figure out how do you count a match? What is a match? You know, and then what does that look like? And so I think, you know, in some ways we still continue to struggle with that. The CAPA has been around for a long time, has almost all the counties are members of CAPA. We are lucky enough to have Karen not only as our executive director, but also as our advocate, so we kind of get, you know, two for the price of one, and she's an outstanding individual and you know, extremely effective in her role. We meet monthly, CAPA does, and we talk together, and we talk about how we can help each other, how we can help the community. Certainly we're happy to share Karen with CICA, and I think that that's critical because CICA is able to do things that a lot of public authorities aren't, and I'm not going to steal Charles' thunder, but Charles will be speaking this afternoon about, you know, what public authorities are and are not able to do, and it really depends on the counties. I know Eldon said, you know, perhaps that Placer County is the most conservative county in the state. I think some of us would probably arm wrestle because a lot of us live in conservative counties, and it's honestly a pain in the ass for an advocate. I mean, you know, when I hear, you know, public authority directors say, oh yeah, I went up to Sacramento and I'm like, oh my gosh, when I go to Sacramento, I have to call it, I'm educating my policymaker, you know, and other people, you know, can go and do advocacy and things. And so we're all able to do different, you know, things based on, honestly, our bosses, and that's typically the boards of supervisors for CAPA members. So CAPA is a great organization. We're continuing to grow and figure things out. You Deborah mentioned, the coordinated care initiative, that's something that we're looking at. Fair Labor Standards Act, the overtime thing and all that was supposed to happen, we're still keeping an eye on that. And some people say it's great, and other people say it's horrible because it's gonna take away their hours. So nothing fits everybody's needs, unfortunately. So whatever comes up, we have to try to advocate, figure out what's best, try to make it flexible enough so that it fits the lives of everybody. But I'm sure thankful that the CAP is around. It's helped me a tremendous amount over the years in connecting with my colleagues. And it's a great network of executive directors that try to communicate, certainly in person in Sacramento. Well, we'll be meeting on this Thursday. And we also, I think, try to do things over the phone. We have an excellent legislative committee that works on policies and a number of, I think like 16 pages of bills that the public authorities in CAPA are looking at right now. So CAPA does, thankfully, through Karen, a lot of important advocacy, and we also identified and hired another advocate to support Karen because there's just so much to do around advocacy. So among other things, at least CAPA is that advocacy entity when the public authority managers and directors kind of have their hands tied behind their backs. But we're doing a lot of things. Absolutely, you all, and most of you I think are from advisory committees, we absolutely depend on your voice and your ideas. One of the things that we've done in San Diego is town hall meetings where our advisory committee sponsors town hall meetings, and we've been talking recently, how much does it really cost to have a town hall meeting? You can identify a free space in the community and have people come in, and I think that that's a real critical way for our advisory committee to get information, during town hall meetings. We'll either pass out surveys or ask people to so to speak, testify, I guess, when they come to these town hall meetings, and it teaches us a lot about what our community wants. So different, as I said, different public authorities do things differently, but when we come together, we try to identify best practices, and people get ideas, and take notes, and then go back and try to implement those different things in the county. And I have to say, it's kind of interesting. I want to go back to AB 1682. AB 1682 was actually initially written by the union, a specific union, that was represented in San Diego, and we fought them because the reason that the unions wanted AB 1682 is because they wanted, to be able to do collective bargaining for wages and benefits. And we said, well, that sounds good. Let's, we definitely want wages and benefits, to increase as well, because pretty much before AB 1682, very few, if any, counties had increased the wages and benefits. So we thought it was a good idea, but it was kind of union-centric, and so we worked with the union